and have viewed each other with the deepest suspicions since St. John of Damascus to slaughter each other. And how much more likely will this be when we are all finally struck with the apparent looming catastrophes of global climate change, and when the competition for food and natural resources becomes more fierce. Indeed, it hasn't escaped many of us that there have already been some prominent voices in the West and in the Islamic world calling for this. This is the background behind the launching of a common word. It was addressed from religious leaders to religious leaders of the two largest religions in the world, in the recognition that whilst religious leaders do not generally make public policy, they are nevertheless still the ultimate touchstones for morality, and thus the final safety net for public opinion and non-government actors. This is not politics by other means, but rather politics that recognizes that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that issueth from the mouth of God. It was not intended, as some have misconstrued, to trick Christians or to foist Muslim theology on them, or even to convert them to Islam. Neither was it intended, as Miroslav just said, to reduce both our religions to an artificial union based on the two commandments. Indeed, in Matthew 22:40, Jesus Christ, the Messiah, alayhi salam, was quite specific. On these two commandments hang all the prophets, all the law and all the prophets. Hang, not are reduced to. It was simply an attempt to find a theologically correct and pre-existing essential common ground, albeit perhaps interpreted differently, between Islam and Christianity, rooted in our sacred texts and in their common Abrahamic origin, in order to stop our own deep-rooted religious mutual suspicions from being an impediment towards behaving properly towards each other. It was and is an effort to ensure that religions behave as part of the problem and are not misused to become part of the solution. Indeed, the two commandments give us guidelines and a shared standard not only to what to expect from each other, but also to how we ourselves must be and behave. We started with Christianity bilaterally simply because Islam and Christianity are the largest two religions in the world and in history, and so in that sense, Islamic-Christian dialogue is the most critical. But this does not preclude our having other conversations with those of other faiths, bilaterally or multilaterally, or even with those with no faith at all. Indeed, we have, for example, been having a conversation with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and other Buddhists, whom on the surface of things, Islam has a lot less in common with than with Christianity. And I'd like to say this: he's a lot nicer than you Christians. I would like to say also that a common word does not signal that Muslims are prepared to deviate from or concede one iota, one atom of their convictions in reaching out to Christians. Nor I expect the opposite. Let's be crystal clear. A common word is about equal peace, not about capitulation. Indeed, some have suggested that our framing our extended hand in the language of love is such a concession, but I assure you that this is not at all accurate, nor is it a concession. Rather, it has been a particular joy to be able to focus in our initiative on this frequently underestimated aspect of our religion, the principle of love. Indeed, we have over 50 mere synonyms for love in the Holy Quran. English does not have the same linguistic riches and connotations, as we have already seen in the workshops, and as I'm sure we will discover together here in the remainder of these Yale days. If Muslims do not usually use the same language of love as Christians in English, it is perhaps because the word love frequently implies different things for Muslims than it does for Christians. Our use, then, of the language of love in a common word is simply a recognition that human beings have the same souls everywhere, however corrupted or pure, and thus that the experience of love must have something in common everywhere, even if the objects of love are different, and even if the ultimate love of God is stronger than all other loves. God says in the Holy Quran, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. Yet of mankind are some who take unto themselves objects of worship which they set as rivals to God, loving them with a love like that which is due to God only. But those who believe in God are stauncher in their love for God. Now I would like to recognize and introduce some of the Muslim guests here, starting with those coming from the Islamic world. We have from Algeria, His Excellency, the Algerian Minister of Religious Affairs, Dr. Bughulam Abdallah, who is one of the unsung heroes of the Islamic world, for he has helped to reconcile the people of Algeria after a long and brutal civil war that has killed tens of thousands of people. Also from Algeria, we have His Excellency Professor Dr. Sayyid Mustafa Sharif, former ambassador, former Minister of Education, expert on the Vatican, and one of the leading intellectuals and thinkers of the Arab world. From Egypt, we have Dr. Salama Shaki, Egypt's Under Minister for Foreign Affairs, one of the leading scholarly female voices in the Arab world. From Morocco, we have Dr. Taha Abdirahman. Dr. Taha is one of the most famous, most respected, most influential, and most beloved philosophical minds in the Islamic world today. From Morocco, also from Morocco, we have Professor Farouk Hamada, one of the leading experts on the crucial science of Islamic hadith in the world. From Azerbaijan, we have Allah Shakur Bashzada, the Grand Mufti not only of Azerbaijan but of the whole Caucasus region by election. He is the world's only Sunni Shia Grand Mufti. He gives Sunnis a Sunni answer and Shia a Shia answer to their questions. He is a paragon of religious plurality. From Bosnia, we have Grand Mufti of Bosnia, Dr. Mustafa Sharif, Dr. Mustafa H.R.H. Or even now, because he messed up my name in one of these conferences. He is another hero. He suffered and fought in the Bosnian genocide. Then he fought in his heart and forgave, and today he fights for peace as the senior religious authority of Europe's 20 million Muslims. From Kosovo, the world's newest state, we have Sheikh Naim Travner, who comes here despite the tensions and the delicate situation in his own country, which we all very much appreciate. From Palestine, we have His Eminence Chief Justice of Palestine, Taysir Tamimi, Sheikh Taysir Tamimi, a formidable and highly experienced figure who has of late been involved in interfaith dialogue and cooperation between Muslims, Christians, and Jews. From Indonesia, we have Professor Dean Shamsuddin, the brilliant head, the youngest ever of the Muhammadiyah party, the second largest party in Indonesia, with 30 million members. From Nigeria, we have my dear friend, Prince Bola Ajibola, the former Vice President of the International High Court of Justice at The Hague, the former Nigerian Minister of Justice and Attorney General, the founder of both the Islamic Movement of Africa and the Crescent University. From Iran, we have Ayatollah Professor Sayyid Mustafa Muhaqqaq Damad, the former Attorney General of Iran, and now perhaps the leading philosopher and expert on Shiite Irfan in Iran, if not the world. From Pakistan, we have Dr. Hafiz Muhammad Suhail Omar, the director of the prestigious Iqbal Academy, a gentleman and a man of exemplary virtue. From Afghanistan, we have Professor Muhammad Hashim Kamali, who is recognized as the greatest expert on the relationship between Sharia and modern law in the world, and has written the best and most acclaimed books on the subject. From Gambia, we have Professor and Ambassador Omar Jah, the head of the Muslim scholars in that country, and many other things, and a much beloved leader all over the Islamic world. From Yemen, From the Yemen, we have Sheikh Habib Ali Jeffrey.